Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Activities for People Living at Home with Dementia. We are proud to offer this series with funding from the Area Agency on Aging and the United Way of Tarrant County. These programs are recorded except for Texas Winds, and some are made available for viewing through a YouTube channel for future use. I am Martha Brown, your host for today's activity. We are presenting today the topic, Familiar but Different, brought to us by Peggy Spear with the Amon Carter Museum of American Art. Peggy always has an interesting take on whatever she brings.
That's
I can't
right.
wait to see what this is, Peggy.
All right,
It's all
gang.
yours.
Thank you, Martha.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so we're talking familiar. Oh, a mouse. There we go. We're talking familiar but different, which is layman's terms for the phrase appropriation. I'm sure you all know what the phrase appropriation means, but it's one that we commonly are using in art history because it's artists repurposing what other artists have done in the past and kind of making it their own. So that phrase appropriation is used a decent amount. So we are, you just are now using an art historical for, well, it means a lot of things, but another art history phrase. We're gonna look, we've looked at this painting before, but it's one of my favorites and there's always fun things to say about this artwork. So I thought we'd start here. So we know that the topic is appropriation. What do we see that's being appropriated?
The untrue story.
The untrue story of George Washington.
Okay, so yes, we are telling the story of little George not telling a lie, but what within this artwork is something that is from another artwork?
The head?
Himself?
The
Washington himself?
The head of George Washington. You might recognize that George from this portrait of Gilbert Stuart, who's also appeared then. Our
That's
dollar
right.
bill,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So that is the appropriated piece within this artwork. It's the picture of George Washington. The reason, any guesses on why this artist, Grant Wood, and then again, we've talked about Grant Wood, he's the artist who painted the man holding the pitchfork. It's that same artist.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Why, any guesses why he would choose to put this dollar bill Gilbert Stuart George in this painting?
Was it familiar?
Yes. Ding, ding, ding. Gotta get the gold star.
Gotta get
Hey, yeah.
Woo.
That's exactly right. So this was painted in 1939. Who the heck knew what George Washington looked like as a child? Nobody. But
Nobody.
everyone knew what George Washington looked like as an adult, especially because it was on our currency. So the artist thought it would be appropriate to use the head of the president that we know is George Washington, but put it on a 6-year-old's body. So it's pretty funny.
Mhm.
But also, if it were just a generic head of of George Washington as a 6-year-old, we wouldn't know exactly or immediately, oh, this is George Washington as a child, right?
Mhm.
Maybe there would be some cues like, what is he chopping down?
Mhm.
Cherry tree.
Cherry tree.
Cherry tree. Yeah, but here he's using an image that everybody is familiar with. The portrait of that was painted when George Washington was alive. So we see a young George, and we see who do you think has his hand extended towards George Washington?
His dad?
His father.
Yeah, his father. Any guesses on who this man is?
I was going to ask,
Any guesses?
No.
is it the artist?
No, that's a good guess. It's not. It's Parson Weems. It's the author of George Washington's biography.
Oh, okay.
So there's also too, and I did not put this in, but this is like even more appropriation. There's a very famous painting of a man pulling back, I think it's by artist Peel, pulling back a curtain, and he's pointing behind the curtain to the museum that was behind him. It was like one of the first American museums, depictions of an American museum. So this reference right here of a man standing pulling back a curtain is another art historical appropriation, but we don't, that's like getting too much into a wormhole. So anyway,
So what about those people in the back? Are they appropriated from somewhere?
they are not, no.
Okay.
You never know. No, they are not. Those are representing slaves, which George Washington, while he was a progressive and he himself released all his slaves. He did own slaves. When he died, all of his slaves were released, and his wife kept all of her slaves, which was interesting. But he was a slave owner. So there is a nod to that, but it's also, they're standing under what? Do you notice the weather?
Cloudy skies.
Yeah. So it's sort of a reference to a country divided with these slaves standing under them. But it's also, look, it's painted in 1939. A storm's coming. What's that storm? World War II.
World War II.
Okay. So Grant Wood is creating this Parson Weems fable artwork as kind of a call to patriotism within the United States. Fascism was on the rise. The world was very aware of what was happening or where we were heading. And so this was a way to remind Americans what it means to be American and what it means to take pride in your country. And so he's telling the story of a honest George Washington, an attribute that at an early age, he had and continued to have throughout his life. So that they're teaching this in school, children are then thought, well, I want to be like our first founding father, George Washington. So this was kind of a resurgence in claiming your Americanness, if that makes sense. So we know that this is a fable. Parson Weems, I think it was added into like the 6th or 7th edition of George Washington's biography. It was not in the first 5. But it's now a story that everybody knows, as part of the American tale of who George Washington was. And interestingly enough, we have talked about this in the past. Grant Wood was a set designer for his the local theater in his town in Iowa. He was a rural man in Iowa, and he created sets for the theater. This has a very set feel to it. Can you pick up on some of those elements?
The curtains on the left as well.
Absolutely. Curtains made, that is theater through and through. And so he's telling this dramatic story. That's part of pulling the curtain back and telling the story. What else do we see that feels a little stagey?
House looks more like a stage setting.
Yeah, very flat.
Yeah. As well as the background, it looks like a very, just like a, what do they call it? A scrim
Yeah, like a
on the
backdrop.
back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good eye.
The lighting too, hard lighting.
Yeah.
Very theatrical. You don't typically see lighting created that way in a story, like in a painting like this. So he's got some of those angles that you can do with stage lighting. And then, the repetition of things. What can you see? There's a number of things that are repeated. Can you tell me some of the things you see that are repeated?
Buttons.
Well, the pointing of the fingers.
Yes, the pointing, everything keeps pointing you to kind of the same thing. So
Right.
pointing and pointing of fingers. Paulette said buttons.
Yeah.
Yep, buttons on this man's coat, on this coat. Which
The shadows are on 4 of the people in there. The shadow on the 2 in the background, as well as the 2 in the front.
Yeah, so he's keeping the consistency of shadows.
Mhm.
We're seeing the repetition of stars on the frame itself. There's stars that are painted. We see a star right here.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the cherries, the tassels right here mimic the cherries.
Oh, yeah.
And then kind of the trees in the back, while they're not red, they still have that doop, doop, doop feel that we see throughout.
Mm.
So it's a pretty large painting. It's 38 by 50. So it takes up a good presence on the wall.
Wow.
And it's just fun. This is just a fun artwork.
Mhm.
All right, so we're going to keep our friend George in mind as we now move to this next artwork entitled Finn. Can you tell me what you think?
Is that who you have up now?
Yes.
Ah,
What has George Washington in the background?
Yeah.
I have
And
seen that.
I'm
Thank you.
not sure who the other person is. I'm sorry.
This is Emiliano Zapata. This is, we
Okay.
talked about him in Printing the Revolution a few
Mhm.
back, where he was
Yeah,
a political revolutionary in Mexico.
Mexico.
So we're seeing George and we're seeing Zapata
Mhm.
as pulled from the peso and the pesos and the dollar bill.
Ah,
So their faces, you can see the pixelation and the hatching from it being transferred to a etching to give it that same exact
sure
feel
enough.
of the bill. So that's where we're seeing the appropriation here with
Oh, okay.
good old GW back in it again. And then the Mexican revolutionary Emiliano Zapata. Do you notice any other details within this artwork?
The
Well,
flag
there's some
box.
colors around the edges as if it's the Mexican and the American flag colors.
Absolutely. Good,
Yep.
good eye.
Yep.
Yep.
You see this down here?
The snake.
Yeah, this is the artist kind of like signature inclusion. He adds the snake to a lot of his artworks. It's no real significance in this artwork, just that he includes it in his pieces.
I thought maybe the snake was biting and FIN meant the finish.
It does. It's Spanish for finished, fin.
And
So
I thought maybe the snake was saying, "Sss, you're
Oh, how
done."
cute. That, it might be. We've not been able to get that out of the artist. Now, he's still living. He is a teacher or professor at UT Arlington.
Huh.
And so, yeah,
Really?
he's still making art as well. But so fin is Spanish, or fin is Spanish, and it means the end. The way that
The act or what? Sorry.
the end.
Yeah,
End.
the end.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah,
So it has a feel. Where would you see something like this written? The end.
in the movie.
Yeah,
Movie.
The movie.
a movie. Yeah. So he himself, the artist himself, is a movie buff, and so this is kind of his nod to his interest in the cinema. But it's having a double meaning, and
Mhm.
some art historians speculate that the fin is maybe referencing the end of an era because of these
Yeah.
two revolutionaries.
Yes.
End
say-
of a dictatorship and an end of the, I say, the British
Yep.
colonial art.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
The beginning and the end. Very good.
Hmm.
Yeah. So this, it's doing exactly that. It's reminding the onlooker that these are figures of change and revolution. And so these people were once viewed as rebels, as insurgents,
Mhm.
but they've been memorialized on our dollar, on our currency, so that they were such impactful figures that because they ended so many injustices. And so here we're celebrating the end of the time before them and reminding people of the future that they could have if they, for change and things like that. So this is a fun one. This artwork is 27 by 26 inches. So it's not small. And this was on view a few years ago. We had an exhibition of this particular artist on view. It was pretty cool.
So lithograph, okay.
Yes, a lithograph, correct.
Okay.
I had the privilege of hearing this artist speak this past weekend. She is a doll. She's almost 80. She is based out of the Bay Area in California. Her name is Esther Hernandez, and she has the best sense of humor. She was making us all giggle. So here, this artwork is currently on view right now in our Printing the Revolution exhibition. What do you see?
I see somebody doing kung fu, karate.
Okay.
A female doing.
A female. Does this image have a familiar look to it? What do you think it's appropriated from? Because that's what the theme is. So we got to remember, what is she referencing?
A part of the title says,
Yeah,
What
Our Lady
does
of-
it say?
the Virgin of Guadalupe. You see that on the back of a lot of cars. Yes.
Mm.
so the Virgin of Guadalupe is, if you are a Catholic, she is like one of the best virgins you can pray to. I mean, like there are some, there's Our Lady of Victory, Our Lady of Hope, Our Lady of Guadalupe, Our Lady of Lourdes. There's a lot of different virgins that have appeared to Catholics over time, and people continue to go to that spot to honor where that virgin appeared. And they've become icons, particularly in Mexico. The Virgin of Guadalupe is an icon. She is, and so you might see, like Martha, you just said you'll see the sticker on a lot of cars. Yeah, like I'm wearing a Virgin, a Blessed Virgin, not the Virgin of Guadalupe, but I'm wearing a Blessed Virgin medal myself. There's other versions of Our Lady of Guadalupe, but they all appear in this same Mary standing on the crescent moon with an angel supporting her.
Oh, okay,
And then
yeah.
you see the ray of light. So here we see the ray of, the sun, the burst of light, but she's not praying with her head down with this very serious face. She's more assertive than passive.
Mhm.
Okay, and then you see, to me, it looks like the Libre, the wrestling, the Mexican wrestling.
Right, yes, yeah.
It looks like that kind of costume character at the bottom. Here, this isn't, I believe it's an archangel. So anyway,
What does it mean there? The Virgin of Guadalupe is defending the what?
the rights of the Chicanos.
Ah, the right of the Chicano. Okay.
So here, and Esther spoke about this particular artwork, and it was really cool hearing her talk about it. So she's using a familiar icon that Mexicans particularly know. So again, we're working within this Chicano movement of Mexicans moving to the United States, but not assimilating with Americans, still owning their Mexican background. And so that's what a Chicano is. Or she's a Chicana. She was a feminist. She was one of the first Chicana artists who was getting recognition for creating art that defended Chicano right. She was the one that did the Sun Mad, the raisins artwork.
Oh,
It's the
yeah,
same
yeah.
woman. Okay.
Okay.
So she's a legend within this movement, and she's one of the few Chicana artists you might actually see in an art history book. That's very, very few have actually made it into the canon of art history. So anyway, so she was saying that as a Mexican, as a Catholic, you see the Virgin everywhere. Her grandmother had recently died right before she ended up creating this artwork when she was in school. This was part of a school project. And they were passing out the prayer cards with the Virgin of the Guadalupe on it. And she laughed because she's like, this is not who Granny was. Like, Granny was a badass. She wasn't some woman just quietly praying with her head down. That's not who Granny was.
She's
And
kicking
so-
butt.
Right,
Yes.
exactly. And then Esther herself was, this was like during social reform and things like that. And she was taking karate lessons to learn how to defend herself. So then Esther herself was, not this quiet virgin who's just letting things happen and praying for change. she's enacting the change. So this is kind of a nod to her grandmother, but a nod to herself as like, I'm kicking ass and taking names, and I'm not your just regular female. I'm the one that's going to make change. So it's a pretty powerful artwork, particularly too, if you are Catholic or you are part of the Marian cult and you know a lot about the Virgin Mary. Virgin Mary is one of the toughest women I've ever read about. And so this is a really cool take on a female icon and giving her the power. So you can imagine this made a splash in the art world.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and this is just an example. And so you might now be more aware of the Virgin. You'll be seeing the Virgin of Guadalupe in more places. But now you have the fun image of this version of the Blessed Mary. All right, we got one more, which I debated putting on or not, because it's kind of a esoteric, kind of lofty talk. But
Fort Worth.
yes, so this title does not give you much information. But what are you seeing?
Sailboat?
Sailboat,
Lightning.
lightning.
Seagulls.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see what's running down the right side of the artwork?
Picture frame.
Yes. So
Oh,
use that as a clue. It's a picture frame, and you're describing what is in this picture, but does it look familiar to you?
obviously not.
It's a
Obviously
picture-
not.
Well,
Oh,
I can't
okay.
remember if we talked about this art or not.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
The
Now it
same
does, yeah.
lightning.
Yeah.
It is a picture.
Yeah, and same seagulls.
Yep, it's a photograph that Richard Mizrak took of a painting hanging on our walls in the museum. So that's why it's titled Fort Worth. He took it in the Amon Carter's gallery. But he deliberately included the frame, so we knew that it was man-made. We knew that it's something that is on view, is in a gallery. It's not something that I don't know. It's got enough importance that it's framed and on view. And you can see, the reflection of the light off the canvas
Mhm.
up here, up in the top register of it. You can see the canvas detailing itself in a way that almost you would not be allowed to get this close to the artwork in the museum if you were to
Really?
yeah. So you're seeing some of that detail because this is the artwork. This is not a great picture of the artwork, but this is a picture of the artwork. And the lines are very fine. So we're not seeing much of the artist's hand. We're not seeing much of the canvas. We're just seeing a beautiful image. Mizrak was working on a series, and I'm going to quote the curator because John Rohrbach, our curator of photography, senior curator of photography, has a real way with words. And so I'm gonna let him do the speaking. This is part of a series designed to draw attention to the dissemination of Euro-American culture that came with the imperial conquest of this continent.
Wow.
Okay, it's a lot of fancy words.
A lot of words, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Basically, I think it's the reframing. It's making us aware of the version we're getting painted through a Euro-American eyes. And this is how this information of how America was founded and how America functions. Bye, Steve.
Bye. See you
Bye,
guys
Steve.
later. Bye.
This is how we know about America because of the things that we're hanging up on our gallery walls. And so it's a story within a story, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what's happening here. He's telling the story of an artwork, but this is removed from the actual story. So maybe that's how we're getting our history as well.
So Peggy, I'm a little confused. The title of this thing says Fort Worth, Texas, 1995.
Mhm.
Is that just because the paintings in Fort Worth, Texas?
Yeah,
or-
there's a number of artworks titled that within this series.
Okay.
And
I say
so,
that's not Fort Worth. That's
No,
not
no,
like
no,
grapevine or
It's
either.
Narragansett Bay in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
But that's not the point. It's just, I think, I don't know why it doesn't have a title. Artists are funny. They don't always title things, or if they do, as Yetta's pointed out before, it's untitled. I think this is more of just like, here we are in Fort Worth learning about a story that's happening on not our coast, but this is part of how we're getting that Euro-American colonization story, and it's being told in Texas, and how this history is being disseminated. So it's real heady, like
Yeah.
this is massive. This photograph is 40 by 50 inches, so it's really big. And Mizrak works. I've met him. He's a cool guy. He is based out of the Bay Area in California, if I remember correctly. And we have a bunch of his photographs in our collection. He was one of the first photographers to really make a name for himself in large format photographs and colored photographs. In the 70s, he started taking pictures.
That is a very big picture.
Are you really allowed to use flash, or is it just because he was an artist, to use flash on a painting in your museum?
We are not, no. If your flash is on, we'll tell you to turn it off.
Okay.
My hunch was that this was under conservation supervision. The flash itself was quick enough that it would not have caused damage. And there's probably like, we're only going to allow you to do this a couple of times.
Yeah.
And I mean, because we take photographs of our own artwork as well, and we do use flash and things like that. But I don't know, because this was in 95, so I don't know. I don't think it was the same conservator, so I can't even ask her. But yeah, it was probably a special dispensation for our friend. Yeah.
That was a great question too.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, no, we used to not even allow pictures in our galleries. Now we do. For a while, we weren't allowed to take pictures of photographs because there was a concern that things could be cropped. And this is a photograph. So this probably was not allowed to be photographed when it was first put out or on view. And so anyway, now things have loosened up a little bit, and we do allow photographs in our galleries. And you will not be accosted if you are.
Good to know.
Yeah. So.
But I really like the sky here with the blue
Yeah.
showing through.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's in the real life version, or like the real painting version. It's a lot blacker than this photograph is letting on.
Mhm.
He's using the dye coupler print process, which Don, don't even ask me how they do it.
I'm not.
I don't have an answer for you. But it's the same process that Elliot Porter's using. So it's, how rich his photographs are with color. I mean, they're so opaque and so almost inky feeling. He's using that same process. So that's he's really able to pick out the colors to give it that richness.
Okay.
This one looks a lot happier than the Narragansett one.
It does, but I'll tell you, the Narragansett in real life, be still my heart. It is, you almost feel that quietness as if you were on the shore.
Wow.
You know that storm is coming, and when it gets real quiet, you can feel that stillness.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's breathtaking.
Yeah. I mean, the water in the foreground is no waves on it.
No, I mean, it looks like glass, and you
Look like glass. Yeah.
it just, this artwork, even though bad is coming, or you feel worried for maybe the people that are still caught out at sea, there's something so calming about this artwork, at least for me. So anyway.
I love it when the storms are about to come in my life.
You can tell them when they're coming.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Especially when you see them in the distance like this one.
Yeah.
And feel the barometric pressure change. And
the smell of the rain.
oh
Yeah.
yes. There's a word for that. I wish I could remember what it is.
Oh, yeah, I didn't
There
know
is a
that.
word for impending rain. We'll
There,
have to
and
look
I
that
don't
up.
know if you guys are beach people, but you know, after like a beach day, when you know that there's that storm about to roll in, I don't know, it's like the perfect end to a beach day, all that sun, and then you get to be cozy in your house. So
Mhm.
I love a good beach storm.
Yeah, back when I worked at Motorola, I think this was back when Harold Taft was a weather guy at Channel 5, but he
Oh.
called the storm that was coming in the Arctic Clipper. And I remember standing by the window watching it just roll in.
Cool.
It went from warm to very cold very quickly.
And if you've ever had a broken bone or some sort of surgery, you feel that ache. Even when you can't see the storm, you know the storms are coming.
Yes.
So,
That's
all
right.
right. Well, those are our familiar but different artworks for the day.
Mhm.
As I said, we're back next week with portraits. So, well, it
Looking
will be a
forward to
surprise
that.
for me what we're looking at, but they will all be good, I promise.
You don't
Thank
ever,
you, Peggy.
you don't ever
Thanks,
bring
Peggy.
anything bad. Yes,
Oh.
thank you.
You have crack things, that's debatable.
Some of those abstracts are a little questionable.
And now I just throw them in to see what Yetta's going to say, because I
Yeah.
know, I just know.
You know,
All right, my friends, I hope you have a really good week, and I'll see you next week.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Miss Peggy.
Bye.
So long, farewell.
Well, we're not going to go though. Let's see what's coming up.
Oh,
So
we're not.
We're not going to
Okay.
go, no. Peggy Spear
Okay.
brought us Familiar but Different at not at 1:30. I put the wrong number up there. Ron Jones is playing at 11:30 today. So we're going to cut off Fifth Street Cafe at 11:25. So I can go over and see it, and I hope you will as well. We
Okay.
haven't seen Ron in a while.
What does John Jones play?
I think he's a piano player.
Piano player. Okay.
I think so. It's been a while, Don, and my brain didn't go there.
Yeah, I don't recall
I
that
don't
name.
recall. No, I don't call it. But
I don't either, and I'm sorry I don't. On Thursday, that says Wednesday, but it should be Thursday. I apologize. That was a bad slide. Okay, here we go. Thursday the
there you
28th.
go.
Yeah,
Whoa.
me and my finger. Frog bingo all day Thursday.
Good.
Oh, my word.
I will be off for my ladies' luncheon day, so y'all get to play bingo without me.
No.
Yeah, but I'll be back for Friday.
Oh, is Heather going to be here?
She will. Yes.
And
Have I told y'all that we have a new person coming on board?
No.
Okay. Well, since
No.
so many people are here, there is a new lady who will be taking over the 1:30 program. Her name is Tia, T-I-A, Vieira, V-I-E-R-A, like Meredith.
She was here last Friday.
She was here last Friday. Yeah.
She dropped in to see how things were going. Yes, and I wasn't here, so I didn't get
Yes.
to meet her. But she's going to be doing the 1:30 program, and she will also be doing other things with Gail and for Gail. And she is a paid person. So you will be seeing lots of Tia Vieira in your
Oh, that's
future.
great.
Yes.
Okay.
So there will be Martha and Heather and Tia doing the
Okay.
3 programs after Tia gets trained on how to get on and off and do all the stuff that took me
So
months
is
to learn.
Tia going to take something that's already done and use it for the 1:30, or is she going to make her own program up?
You know, I have no idea. My heart would hope that she brings some of her own personality to that. Yeah. Hey, Bird. Well, why don't I turn off the recorder and we'll just slide right into Fifth Street Cafe?